everyone, Izzy with Sustained Farms here, and I'm going to be talking about the dandelion today. So we're going to be looking at the different ways we can use dandelions, all the way from the root to the flower. So dandelions have this reputation of just being a weed, but they are actually fairly high in nutrients, so they're a great plant to actually eat, and they have been used as a food source and also a source of medicine for a very long time, all the way back to ancient Greek, Egyptian, and Chinese civilizations. So they're pretty great. They're also fairly low impact on our ecosystem, so while they may seem kind of like a pest, that's all just like an aesthetic thing. So people don't like the way they look in their yards, so they're like, let's get rid of them. But they do a lot of good both for our bodies and our environment. So today we'll go over how to harvest dandelions. For the 3 different parts, you'll harvest the roots by digging. You'll harvest the leaves just by grabbing them. And you'll harvest the tops of the flower just by picking them. You don't really need to eat, or it's not super tasty, the stem part of the flower. You want the petals, the leaves, and the roots. The roots make a great tea. The leaves are great on salads. They're great to add some greens to pasta. And honestly, sometimes when I just realize I haven't eaten vegetables, I'm like, oh, let's go get some dandelions because I've got a lot in my yard. And then the flowers are also good on salads. They can be used in marinades, and you can even throw them in cookies, which is pretty cool. So one rule, though, when you are thinking about harvesting dandelions is to make sure that there are no pesticides in your yard or in your area. So I control my yard. I know that I'm not using any pesticides here, so these are all safe to harvest and to eat. But like my local park that puts up a sign every year that they're spraying for for insects and to reduce dandelions and other weeds, I'm not going to get them from there because I don't want to put that into my body because I'm not exactly sure what's in those chemicals. And yeah, let's get harvesting. When I'm looking for the leaves, I can either kind of identify the dandelion itself by the flower or by the leaf shape. So they kind of have this arrow looking leaf, pretty distinct, and it's something you probably recognize. Dandelion leaves will taste different based on their age. So the larger the leaf, the more bitter it's going to be. So like this is a fairly large leaf because it's kind of attached to some fairly large dandelions, and they're going to have a more bitter taste. So they're going to be great to use in a pesto. You can just go ahead and pluck it from the base of the plant, and I'm good to go. Now these ones over here, they're a little bit younger, so you can see they have smaller leaves, and these are going to be less bitter, and they're going to be great for salad. So I'm going to go ahead and pluck that the same way. So you can see that it's a lot smaller than the previous one. Harvesting the flowers to use in salads, salad dressings, or like kind of to spruce anything up is going to be fairly simple. You just kind of pluck that flower head right off the top. You don't really need the stem at all, so I'm just going to get a couple, and then we'll just kind of separate the flowers, the petals from the green base, and be good to go. Now, when it comes to the roots, that gets a little bit more complicated. So this one I've already pretty much started. So dandelions have, as far as lawn plants go, they have fairly deep roots, which is great for carbon storage, but does make them harder to get out. So you can see that the easiest way is to kind of just dig a hole all the way around the plant, and then find the start of the root. So right here is going to be the base of the plant, and then we have the start of the root. So you can see this kind of goes into 2 sections. All I'm going to do is pull on that root, and I'm probably not going to get the full thing, but I'll get enough for my purposes, and that's not a big problem. This root depth is also what makes these plants so resilient in our area. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab that section right here. So the closer to the dirt possible is the best because you're going to get more root that way. So now I've got some dandelion root, and you can see that it's kind of torn off at the end. Once again, that's because I didn't dig deep enough, but I don't really need to. So now For these, I'm going to cut these roots off and then dry them outside. Or you can bake them in an oven for about 2 to 3 hours at about 350 degrees. And that's just to dry them out, because right now this root is going to taste really bitter. And if I roast them and dry them a little bit, that's going to stop the oxidation. And it's also going to make them a little less bitter, maybe a little bit more nutty or smoky. So while my roots dry, I'm going to work with the flowers and the leaves. So these are the easier part. So all I did was I rinsed them, I patted them dry, and they're good to go. So especially these greens, I'm just gonna throw these into a salad and then put a light vinaigrette on it, and they're ready. So I'm just gonna plop those in here. You can also use them and just like throw them in a quick pasta, but these are really honestly good to go. You can eat them as is. They're pretty easy. Now these guys, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to be removing the petals from the base. So to do that, I just kind of hold the base right here and just kind of grab the petals. That's all you're doing. And I can mix these into that salad I just made, or I can mix these into some cookies or into a dressing, whatever I want. And then this little part I'm going to throw into the compost. So I think what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to top some of them on that salad because it just gives it a nice little bright flavor. And then I'm going to put some in some cookies. I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. It's pretty easy. So now I have about somewhere between half a cup and a full cup, maybe a little over, of dandelion yellows and petals. And that's exactly what I'm going to need for my dandelion shortbread cookies. So these dandelions aren't actually going to add a lot of nutrition to the cookies, but what they will do is they'll add kind of a nice honey flavor. And that's coming from some of the pollens here and just the characteristics of the petals themselves. They won't add a lot of nutrition because it's really the greens of the dandelion and the roots of the dandelion that are going to have a lot of those vitamins. So what I'm going to do is combine these into a mixture that I've already made. So this is just a sugar and butter mixture right now. So it's 1 cup of butter, so that's 2 sticks, and it's just softened. And it's been blended with half a cup of sugar. So now all I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to dump these into my cookie mixture. I'm going to kind of move these around, and it's okay if they get kind of smushed because that was going to happen anyway. So I just want them to be well incorporated. Cool, because next step is going to add flour, and that'll help move them out throughout as well. So next I'm going to add about 2.5 cups of flour and a pinch of salt, and then we'll be ready to start forming the cookies. Okay, so now I've got all the ingredients added, and you can see that it is a little bit crumbly, so it's not a super moist cookie. But to make this more formable, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump it out onto some parchment paper. Okay, I'm going to try to knead with my hands some of the crumbles out and really incorporate that flour into the butter. Once that's done, I'm going to kind of roll it up. Once you've finished incorporating all the ingredients in the cookie dough, you have 2 options. You can either lay it out to flat and then use a cookie cutter, or I like to kind of roll it into a log, almost like I'm rolling a burrito using parchment as my tortilla and the cookie dough as my fillings. So it kind of looks like a burrito or a sausage. I put it in the fridge for a couple minutes just to cool it down. Then I unroll it and I can cut it, and then the ends kind of look crumbly, so you have 2. I like to kind of still use that, and I form it into a little cookie. And then these are all the cut cookies right here. You don't need to space them very far apart because these aren't going to rise or spread a whole bunch because we didn't add any active ingredients. And then I'm going to put them in the oven for
at 325 degrees for, I like to say, 18 to 22 minutes or so, checking on them in between to see if they're kind of golden and brown, and then they'll be done. Have been kind of sitting in the sun and laying out for actually 2 days now. And I left them that extra day just because they're still feeling a little bit moist, and what I wanted to see and hear and feel is they're this kind of dark color, but this really white and light inside. And then the feel is like it feels no moisture whatsoever. They feel kind of brittle. You can see little pieces break off fairly easily. And then when I drop them, they make like a tapping sound. And those are all really great indicators that they're dry and ready for use. And so what I'm going to be making with this today is a dandelion tea. And that's really great because you just get all of the nutrients from the roots leached right into the water that forms the tea. And you get nutrients like prebiotics that help build healthy gut bacteria that support your digestion. They're really great for your liver. They have a lot of different vitamins in them, so that's all going to go into the tea that we're going to be drinking. So to do that, all you have to do is take these dandelion roots, and I have about 1 full tablespoon. It doesn't need to be exact, just an approximation is great. So about 1 tablespoon of dried dandelion roots to 8 ounces or 1 cup of water. All I'm going to do now is dump these right in and bring it to a boil. So I'm going to bring it to a boil first. Once it hits that boil, I'm going to turn it down and let it simmer for about 20 minutes, and through that time you'll stir it, you'll check on it, and just see how it goes. It's been about 20 minutes now, and the tea's looking really great. It looks about done. What's really cool is you can see the roots kind of getting bigger, and that's because they're absorbing some of that water. So you're not going to have a full 8 ounces or 1 cup to drink, because some of the water is going to get evaporated and some of it's going to go into the root. But in exchange for that water, the water itself has changed color, and that's how you know that some of the properties of the dandelion root have gotten into the water itself, which we'll be drinking. In order to drink this, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to pour it out, but I'm going to kind of make sure I don't get the roots in. So you can either do that by putting a lid against the side of the pot or using a strainer. That is 3 different ways to use the entire dandelion. So we used the dandelion leaves and yellow pieces right here in our cookies. The greens, full of nutrients, are here in our salad. And the root, also full of nutrients, is here in our tea. Thank you. Enjoy your day.